to Modern Life is Goodish. My name is Dave Gorman, and I've been a bit concerned about my health recently. Actually, that's not quite true. Mrs. Gorman has been a bit worried about my health recently. She hasn't said anything, but I can tell. What really gave it away is some shopping she did recently. She asked if there's anything I wanted from the shops, and I said, oh, I'm running low on cereal. Would you get a new box of wheat bisques? I'm a wheat bisque man. And she returned with a box of 12 wheat bisques. 12! Now, Mrs. Gorman does not eat the wheat bisques, but I do. And I don't think it's controversial of me to say that I eat 2 at a time. So 12 bisques is obviously just 6 breakfasts. 6 breakfasts! Mrs. Gorman doesn't think I'm going to last a week, for crying out loud. Why would anyone buy less than a week's worth of breakfast at the shops? You see, this is one of the fundamental differences between the two of us. I am a bulk buyer. When I buy cereal, I buy a 48 bisque box. You see, Mrs. Gorman and I, we have different priorities. She hates clutter, whereas I hate running out of cereal. Of course, I acknowledge there are problems with the 48 bisque box. If this diagram represents a box, and these are your 4 sleeves of wheat bisques, then you can see that what you start with is a nice, neat, well-packed box. But 18 days in, when you've eaten 36 bisques, you can see that what you have now is a very baggy box. There's a lot of room there for that kind of movement, and that is going to damage the integrity of your bisques. Now, if this diagram isn't making things clear, perhaps this photo will help explain what I'm talking about. But there are ways of dealing with this. Luckily, your average wheat bisque has an interesting quality in that it is roughly 9 centimetres long and roughly 4.5 centimetres wide. This means the bisques can be loaded in a variety of formations. They fit in the box like so, but could just as easily fit in like so. Indeed, they could also do that, and there are a couple of other formations, but let's not get bogged down in unnecessary detail. What this means is that you can solve a baggy box using a pair of scissors and a couple of elastic bands. And this is what I do. When I'm down to 3 sleeves, I cut the box down like so. I slide the 2 pieces together, and I use the elastic bands to give the whole thing some rigidity. And the baggy box is now as tight as a football pundit's trousers. Now, obviously, you repeat the move every time you complete a sleeve so that you get a snug 24 bisque box and, of course, a snug 12 bisque box to end on. Now, I think that's a useful tip for the world, so early one morning, I thought I would share it on Twitter. I know the world's in turmoil, but I've just cut a 48 bisque box down to 12 bisque size, so at least our cupboard is tidier. Do you know what? I was surprised and a little heartened by the reaction. There were a few people who replied to say, oh, at least it's not just me then. That's nice, isn't it? Nice. Comforting to know you're not alone in the world. This person said, glad someone else cuts their cereal boxes to fit. Thought it was just me, although I think they might have been taking the piss as they went on to say, cornflakes are the worst offenders. Nobody's doing that. Not doing that. Far and away, the biggest reaction came from people who seemed shocked to discover that I had a supermarket-own brand cereal. A man of your standing should be eating proper Weetabix, seemed to be the general vibe. And I genuinely didn't know that so many people could taste the difference. But it seems that they can. Now, Weetabix claims to be the nation's favourite cereal, so I'm guessing there must be a few Weetabix eaters in tonight. Does anyone fancy doing a taste test? There's definitely a few people who are keen. Are you a Weetabix eater, sir?
Certainly am.
And you're confident you could tell the difference?
Reasonably.
Yeah, OK. I'm going to sweeten the deal for you, sir. A £20 note. A £20 note says you can't taste the difference. I'm offering you a 50-50 chance of winning 20 sobs. You know, it's a no-brainer. It's what my old nan used to call a lamb or lizard question, isn't it? It's a lamb or... Is that not a... Like just in my family, the lamb or lizard. Anyway, it's a no-brainer. 20 quid. Are you up for it?
Yep.
What's your name there, sir?
Peter.
Peter, take your place on this side of the trolley if you could, sir. OK. And Mark, would you please release the cloche? There you go. You've got 2 dry wheat bisques and a knife and fork. I'd say that one of them is a supermarket-owned brand and one of them is the Weetabix. Would you like some milk with it, sir?
A little bit.
You would. That'd be 20 quid. I'll tell you what, just because I like the cut of your jib, I'll give you some milk there if you like. OK. Would you like to pour some on that one yourself? OK. Just, you know, have a little go and just see if you can taste the difference between the two. I mean, obviously, it's tricky. They're both 95% wheat.
That was good.
That was good, yeah.
Also good, but not quite as good.
So you think that one's Weetabix, and this is supermarket owned?
Yeah.
You're wrong, so it's a very simple code, A for Asda. You got it wrong. You don't get the 20. It was A for Asda, B for branded. You know, it was obvious. I don't know why you couldn't work that out, but anyway. Take your seat, never mind, you know. Thanks for trying. Thank you. It was a good effort. It was a good effort. See? People can't tell at all, can they? I don't understand why people were so insistent that I ought to be taking the branded bisques. I generally didn't know that grown-ups actually cared about this sort of stuff. I mean, when you're 12 and your schoolmates are giving you grief because there are 4 stripes on your trainers, I understand that a brand name can feel very important to you. But when you're 46 and choosing a flaky wheat biscuit, I don't understand why anyone thinks it's supposed to count. I said as much on Twitter, and if I'm honest, the reaction only added to my confusion. If it worries you, bud, it doesn't. Do what I do. Buy a box of 12 real Weetabix, then reload the box with fake ones. No one will ever know. That's remarkable advice, isn't it? In the Gorman household, we have a phrase for advice like that. We call that WTNs, which stands for Worse Than Neil Sean. Now, don't worry, I'm not expecting you to remember who Neil Sean is, but let me jog your memory, because we have discussed his work previously on the show. Neil is the showbiz reporter who, as you can see, is very skilled when it comes to choosing a tie that colour coordinates with the colour scheme of whichever foreign broadcaster he's working for. And he's also the author of the book, Neil Sean's How to Live Like a Celebrity for Free, which we discussed way back when in Series 2. It is full of great tips for living the celebrity lifestyle on a budget, like how to get free shoes by calling up a shoe shop and telling them you'd like to be a shoe tester, because, as we all know, most high street stores need shoe testers. Well, it also contains this tip. Buy cheap mints and put them in a better style tin. Perhaps your mints are from Aldi, but when you offer them round, the tin says Harrods or Selfridges, which in essence is exactly what this correspondent is telling me to do with my wheat bisques. But remarkably, this advice is actually worse. Because the only people who are going to think, oh, look at him with his fancy Dan cereal, are my wife and 18-month-old son. And they've already bought their tickets for the Gore train. They can't get off. We're in. But I am aware that I am something of a lone voice on this one. Most people I know definitely seem to be convinced that the brand is best. I think this is probably the tweet that best captures the mood for me, at Dave Gorman. Would you watch a tribute act if you could easily get in to see the real star? Hashtag serial shame. I don't think you can compare a breakfast cereal to a star musician. A musician has a unique DNA that no 95% wheat product could ever boast. These 4 Asda bisques are not the bootleg Wheatles, are they? You know that if you went to see an Elton John tribute act and he sang every single thing completely note perfect, it still would not be as good as watching the actual Elton John. Because actual Elton John created that music, because it comes from his heart. So watching him perform it will always be better than watching somebody else copy it. But Weetabix make over 10 million Bix a day. They're 95% wheat, just like the Asda bisques. In fact, the 2 products have almost identical recipes, the same ingredients listed in the same order. If you want to work out the differences between them, you really need to drill down into nutritional values. And I can tell you that the major difference is that the Asda bisque is supposed to have an extra 0.07 grams of salt. And that bisque there weighs 19.19 grams. So that extra salt accounts for 0.36% of the bisque. It turns out that my supermarket own brand cereal is 99.64% identical to the household name cereal. And that's why it's not a tribute act. No Elton John tribute could ever be 99.64% of Elton John. Do you know what is 99.64% of Elton John? Elton John just after he's done a tiny poo. or a significant fart. And let me tell you, you don't leave a candle near that wind. On that glorious note, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a break. I'll see you on the other side. To Modern Life is Goodish, ladies and gentlemen, where we have been discussing the merits of own-brand cereals. Now, Mrs. Gorman seems to be convinced that my preference for own-brand goods is some sort of genetic predisposition. She thinks it's in my blood, and as evidence, she always reminds me of my mum's Christmas DVD disaster from a few years ago. We had quite a large gathering at our house on Christmas Day, people from different generations on both sides of the family, and my mum called me up a few days before to ask what the present-giving protocol was. So I told her she didn't need to get anything, but if she wanted to do something as a gesture, she could take care of the Boxing Day entertainment. On Boxing Day, we all like to veg out on the sofa and watch a kids' film with them, OK? As a guide, I told her they had loved Happy Feet the year before. She said, fine, I'm on it. Cut to Christmas Day, and my mum hands me a bundle of DVDs all wrapped up about yay big. She says, I've got a selection. I said, Mum, you didn't need to do that. This is too much. It turns out it wasn't enough. The first film out of the pile was A Car's Life. And I can sense one or two of you thinking, what's wrong with that? I thought that was a pretty decent film, but I think you might be getting it confused with Cars, the Disney Pixar film. A Car's Life is completely unrelated to Cars, and there is nothing about that cover that should lead you to think otherwise. I suppose you could say the title, A Car's Life, is also reminiscent of another Disney Pixar movie, A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life would have probably served our purposes, but that was not in this bundle of delights. What was in there was An Ant's Life. Now, I don't know for sure that these two films are copying these two films. I don't think it's impossible for two people to come up with a cartoon about insects or talking cars. I mean, it'd be more obvious if it was, say, about a rat who's a top chef in a top restaurant, or, I don't know, some tap-dancing penguins, or, say, I don't know, a martial arts panda, which is what makes the rest of my mum's bundle so embarrassing. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Tappy Toes, The Little Panda Fighter, and Ratatouille. That was what we had to work with for our Boxing Day entertainment. The kids knew what was going on. They were only little, but they could immediately tell that these things were not going to cut the mustard. Even our cat was embarrassed. She ran out in that way that cats do when they're embarrassed. You know that cat run they do? You know that cat run? I bought my mum the Dad's Army box set that year. That is a good present, that is. My mum loves it, as she should. It's brilliant. But as I took in our bumper pack of awfulness, I was wishing I'd bought her the Dad's Barmy box set instead. The only reason I haven't bought it for her is that it doesn't exist. It's a figment of my imagination. That is the only reason. It's only fair to say that these things are not completely without merit, OK? Like, take Tappy Toes, for example. I'm not convinced that they came up with tap-dancing penguins all by themselves, but it's only right to tell you that the quality of the animation is genuinely great. In fact, to demonstrate this, I've cut together two scenes, one from Happy Feet and one from Tappy Toes, OK? I'm going to start with Happy Feet. It's a big tap-dancing finale. It's magnificent. At some point, we're going to cut into Tappy Toes. I'm going to leave the Happy Feet sound running so you don't hear a glitch. Just see if you can spot the join in these two clips. It's amazing, it really is. Here we go. Look at that, the scale of that, the drama. It's amazing, isn't it? Look at that perspective. Oh. I think you were on it, weren't you? You were on that. You've got that. Yeah. These things are incredible. Incidentally, I could tell a few of you were just wrinkling your noses when I pronounced that one as Ratatouille. I suppose ratatouille seems much more likely, as much as anything, because it would sound more like ratatouille, which I think is surely the point. But I don't think that memo reached the voice studio on the day, so it is indeed ratatouille. If you don't believe me...
Everyone, even from distant places, wants to come to this restaurant just to taste the famous recipes served there at Ratatouille.
Why is it called ratatouille?
Chef Marcel Toing prepares the most delicious and exotic dishes.
That's right, Marcel Toing. And if you were a chef and your surname was Toing, you too would probably name your restaurant Ratatouille because, you know, it becomes a play on words between your surname and a completely made-up word. Why would anyone do that? The one thing they get right in Ratatouille are the action sequences. You know you're going to get some cat and mouse action in a film like this, and it really does deliver on that score. Take a look at this. I love that. Yeah, isn't that magnificent? Let's just put that on a loop and enjoy the fact that this film has been animated by someone who's never seen a cat before. Not only have they not seen a cat, they appear to have never seen an animated cat either. All of these films, they have certain tropes in common. I don't know if there's some kind of time limit they have to achieve in order to get a release or something, but they all have incredibly long sequences when nothing really happens. Now, that's obviously quite a hard thing to demonstrate, because if I show you a minute-long clip of a car driving round in circles, I'm wasting a minute of your time. But if I don't show it to you, you simply won't believe that it really is there. So I've gone through all of these films looking for the shortest version of something taking much longer than it needs to that I can find, and I found something. I found this in Little Panda Fighter. We join the film just as our hero knocks on the door of his boss's office.
Yeah, who is it?
Pardon me, Mr. Polaris.
Yeah, Pancata, come on in.
Well, sir, I was wondering if...
How beautiful is that? When have you ever seen anyone walk that slowly on TV? And that's funny for all us here, but imagine me on a sofa with a 6-year-old at Christmas. A lot of these films, they also contain sequences that make you question if it really is actually intended for children. For example... That, believe it or not, is a fight sequence from an ant's life. And explaining that to a 6-year-old girl on Boxing Day was not the highlight of my Christmas that year. But that's not the only example. There's also this. Which is from the orgy scene in Ratatouille. It's not from an orgy scene. Mum, you have brought shame on our family. I don't know where she bought them from, but I looked for them online and I found an example. Tappy toes, very easily found online. And if you find one of them, you are very close to discovering the rest, as each and every one of them seems to show up in the customers who viewed this item also viewed section, or the customers who fell for this item also fell for section, as I believe it should be called. As does, incidentally, What's Up? Balloon to the rescue, featuring a house being carried away by a giant balloon. And do you want to know the really weird thing about this one? It was released 2 years before Up. Of course it wasn't. It was about 3 months. 3 months after, you idiots. Now, we're going to go to a break, but it seems my remote control... Sorry, my remote control is not working. I have to trigger the next slide from the laptop. See you after the break. Modern Life is Goodish, where we have been discussing knockoff goods and what makes something truly authentic. Now, I've been thinking about that whole bisque fuss we were talking about earlier. You know, when I was trying to explain why you can't compare a mass-market, mass-production commercial enterprise to the artistic endeavours of the music industry. And I think I've come up with a better way of making my point. Like most issues in life, it is best to look at it through the prism of Bucks Fizz. And that, incidentally, is only the second best Bucks Fizz spoonerism available. But, more importantly, that there is the difference in a nutshell, in your own time. That there is the difference in a nutshell. You see, I am a big Bucks Fizz fan. That's Jay, Mike, Bobby and Cheryl back in the glory days. I really am a fan. I've got a lot of their solo stuff. I've got the Bobby G single, Big Deal. That's a great single. The Mike Nolan album, In My Life. Of course, I've got Cheryl Sings Joni. That's the songs of Joni Mitchell as interpreted by Cheryl Baker. And, of course, I've got Learning French with Henry Hedgehog with Cheryl Baker. I'm pretty sure that's the difficult second album, I think. Jay has been the most prolific of them. I've got True Love and I Spy and Alive and Well and the classic Lamb or Lizard. Anyway, that is what I want Bucks Fizz to look like. Well, I mean, I'm a realist. I want it to look like that, but 30-odd years older. Sadly, that isn't what Bucks Fizz look like. This is what Bucks Fizz look like today. That is one of the pictures from the official Bucks Fizz website. And when I look at that picture, I see just one of the original band. That's Bobby. And that's fair enough. He's never stopped being in Bucks Fizz, and the band are allowed to change and grow around him. It's just that for a fizzer like me, it's not quite the same authentic recipe. What makes the situation more complicated is that there has been a Bucks schism. The other three original members of the band are now touring again, only they're not allowed to call themselves Bucks Fizz. As you can see, they have recruited a fourth member of the band, and sticklers for detail that they are, they've even ensured that he's called Bobby. Incidentally, I do like the amount of forward planning that has gone into that photo. That man is actually there with them in the room. He's in the photo. He's wearing a black polo neck and a black jacket, and they've got a black background. This lot have been burned before. They know that if they fall out with this Bobby, he is very easily removed. Then the search can begin for another Bobby. You never know when Davro might come knocking. You never know. So now, we're in the weird situation where there are two bands and only one of them is legally Bucks Fizz. But if you compare it to Bucks Fizz the drink, well, rightly or wrongly, I always thought the female contingent represented the champagne while the boys represented the orange juice. So what you got there is 1 part orange juice, 1 part orange squash, and 2 parts white wine that's been put through a soda stream. Whereas here, you've got 2 parts champagne, 1 part orange juice, and 1 part cruise ship magician. Now, that's obviously closer to the original recipe, isn't it? Of course, the dream for all us fizzers is that there might one day be a reformation, but sadly, I don't think that's going to be Bucks physically possible. I don't think it is. No, I mean, people have tried. According to the Daily Mirror, they were offered £1 million to put the band back together, but they refused. Yeah. They say, we may not be able to call ourselves Bucks Fizz anymore, but I think our fans can see we are the real band. Yes, we can. We can see that, absolutely. So what are they called now? It says here, the band will tour for 3 months under the name Cheryl, Mike and Jay, formerly of Bucks Fizz with Bobby McVeigh. That really is their band name. And man, that cannot be easy to put on a T-shirt. It certainly hasn't been easy for me to adapt my old Bucks Fizz T-shirt. I tried my hardest, but I had to put Bobby McVeigh on the back when it came. It's the only way around it. It occurs to me now that I'm saying this out loud, that this is very much the analogy of a 46-year-old man, isn't it? But don't worry. I can update this analogy in one fell swoop. There you go. Done. It's worth noting that the one in red is always a true baker. It's the same... Thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's the same situation all over again. To us, there are 4 ingredients of the Great British Bake Off. But in legal terms, the Great British Bake Off is a format owned by a production company, and they are free to change the recipe any time they like. And there's no doubt that people were upset when this all happened. Firstly, when they announced that the show was leaving the BBC. And then, for some people, I was more upset when they announced the new Mel Sue Merryless lineup. And when people get all worked up about frippery such as this, there is just one place that I head, ladies and gentlemen, to the bottom half of the internet. Ladies and gentlemen, I have read every comment I could find beneath every story I could find. And I've taken my favourites and turned them into something that I like to call a found poem that I would like to perform for you now. This is not going to end well. GBBO simply belongs on the BBC. It's like Songs of Praise, Snooker, The Antiques Roadshow, Ant and Dec, and The Weather. You only like them on the good old Beeb. As a licence fee payer, I am appalled by this on every level. The BBC should not be held to ransom in this way. They should just pay whatever it costs to keep the show. Instead, they are just giving in and not giving them what they're asking for. Does anyone know if it is Neil or Noel Fielding? The articles all say Noel, but I thought he was Neil. Who's right? It's like Top Gun all over again. Mary Berry simply is Bake Off, just like Jeremy Clarkson simply is Top Gun. But of course, the brainless Broadcasting Corporation just don't understand. Why blame the BBC? It's ITV's show now. So blame them if you don't like Neil Fielding. It's not ITV, it's Channel 4, idiot. I think Vicky Pattinson would be a great host. Maybe with an older gentleman. Someone like Ronnie Corbett would be good. Cake is bad for you. Yet another programme showing people how to catch obesity and type 2 diabetes. Stop it, BBC. No, stop it, Channel 4. Idiot. This is like when Robbie left Take That back in the day. Only worse. Because it's like Howard is the only one staying off. And nobody's told him that Gary won't be writing the songs anymore. I'm sorry, Paul, but you're a Howard, not a Gary. I thank you. The Bill Roth Ensemble, ladies and gentlemen. The Bill Roth Ensemble. We'll be back after this short break. Welcome back. Now, earlier on, we were discussing these films, and it seems to me that these things exist in order to dupe well-meaning grandmas who like a bargain. But there is another group of people who are even more vulnerable to being duped in this way. I speak, of course, ladies and gentlemen, about sci-fi fans. Now, sci-fi fans will buy almost anything if it appears to be related to their favourite show. A friend of mine reckons he owns 186 different Doctor Who DVDs. And let me tell you, his wife is a very, very, very fictional entity. Now, he has definitely been duped into buying shonky Doctor Who merchandise in the past. He bought a DVD called Doctor Who: The Lost Interviews. Although, actually, the fact that they put a full stop in between each of those letters suggests that this might as well be called the Democratic Republic of the World Health Organization, The Lost Interviews. I don't know, but I assume they did that in order to get round some kind of copyright issue. And I suppose that should have been enough of a warning not to buy this DVD. If it wasn't, then the rest of the cover should have been. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you a Neil Sean presentation. He's even used the same photo as was on his book. And in case anyone thinks I'm making this thing up, I have got it with me here. It's the original DVD. I know it looks like a bad Photoshop, but that's genuinely available to people for cash money. There are other clues on the cover. For example, on the back, in between two photos of the stars of Doctor Who, there is a photo of that classic piece of Doctor Who iconography, a red telephone box. Now, my mate paid a £5 for this, and he was expecting it to be a DVD full of interviews with people from the world of Doctor Who discussing Doctor Who, which I think is a fair assumption based on the title, Doctor Who, The Lost Interviews. Now, I want to show you quite how much of this DVD is not that. So I've digitised it, I've run it through some editing software, and I've captured images of every frame. The DVD is just shy of 40 minutes long. Each column represents about 10 minutes of your life. Now, I want to be completely fair to Neil here. I want to deal in facts, not opinions, and I am aware that I'm not a Doctor Who person. So I've invited someone along who is. I'm delighted, ladies and gentlemen, to be joined by the comedian, writer and actor, Mr. Toby Haydock. He's in the audience over there on row 3. Hello, Toby. It's very nice to have you here. Toby is a bona fide Doctor Who expert. He is also the host of the podcast Toby Haydock's Who's Round. Toby, expert is a fair word to describe you in the world of Doctor Who, is that?
Yeah, I certainly know he doesn't travel around in a red telephone box.
Yes, OK. Well, there you go. Now, is it fair to say, Toby, if you're a Doctor Who fan, the fans in general, you don't have to be very connected to Doctor Who to please them?
Oh, no.
Yeah, OK. So, for example, the actor Helen Worth, better known as Gail Platt in Coronation Street, she has been in Doctor Who, and an interview with her would therefore be fair game, OK? Yeah. Well, this is how Neil introduces Helen on the DVD.
She was in one of the very first series and was an extra in the second series.
OK, how's he doing there, Toby?
Well, she wasn't in the very first series and she wasn't an extra in the second series. She was a credited actress in, if he means by first or second, he means 8th. He's spot on.
Right, so she was in the 8th series of Doctor Who.
She was in the 8th season of Doctor Who at once.
OK, but still fair to include her, OK?
Yeah.
Okay. You just want to be, reasonable. So, OK, let's see what she has to say about Doctor Who.
But Helen told me recently that she wouldn't mind a return to Doctor Who, but this time playing a baddie. The gorgeous Adele Silver is only a young girl.
That's it! That's literally it! She isn't on the DVD. There isn't an interview with her. I think this thing is called The Lost Interviews because he's lost the interview. That isn't the only time he does this. That there is the Helen Worth section, OK? But these bits also fall into the genre Neil tells you about things people have said to him, honest they have. Right? Now, I think it's fair enough to discount that stuff, so let's take that away from the 40 minutes. But I don't want any of you to think that there aren't any actual interviews on the DVD. There are, OK? For that section there, for example, that represents 3 minutes with Felicity Kendall, OK? Again, Toby, she has been in Doctor Who.
She's been in Doctor Who.
So, fair game. Neil sets up this interview in voiceover.
Here, though, Felicity tells me how she creates a character and what it was like playing Agatha Christie in Doctor Who.
I've watched the 3 minutes. Literally, neither of those things mentioned, neither of those things are discussed. She does not say what it's like to create a character, nor does she say what it was like playing Agatha Christie in Doctor Who. Toby, why might she not do that?
Because she didn't play Agatha Christie in Doctor Who.
She didn't play Agatha Christie. She didn't. This is not a one-off. I promise you, you haven't seen the whole of this thing, have you, Toby? It is not a one-off. Neil interviews people who are only vaguely connected to Doctor Who, but Doctor Who is not discussed. If we remove that content, some more holes start to appear. Now, I've shown you 2 clips so far, and Neil has been factually inaccurate in both of them, so I guess this next category is kind of inevitable. Neil is factually inaccurate about Doctor Who. I will give you another example.
Now, here's a fast fact for Doctor Who fans. There was, a couple of years back now, almost 1981, there was a spin-off series called K9 and Friends.
Toby.
It's not like this stuff isn't hard to find. No, there was a pilot for a series that didn't have just 1 episode, and it was called K9 and Company. So, no.
But in his world, it's a series and has a different title.
Yeah.
OK, fine, OK. So let's take it and the rest of its kind out of the picture. There they go. Now, Neil used the words fast fact in that link, and I think that needs to be a category all of its own, because the DVD has a series of fast facts that pop up on the screen as text every now and then, although in using the words fast and pop, I might have imbued them with a sense of dynamism that they don't really possess. There it is, the first episode of Doctor Who, starring William Hartnell, was broadcast on November 23rd, 1963. We've all taken that in by now. It's still there. It's still there. It's gone! It's back! It's back. It's still there. It's still there. There will be a supplementary fact coming along in a moment. Here it comes. Honestly, it will be along in a moment. Hartnell was earning 250 guineas an episode by 1964. There are 5 of these on this DVD, although there aren't really. There are the 5. And let me tell you that 2 of them are the same fact. That fact is identical to that fact. It's just the formatting is different. It's like he sent a note to the editor saying, can you put that one in again 15 minutes later, only ruin the formatting and keep the typo? No. I think, actually, it's possible, but maybe fast facts ought to be a subcategory within the bigger category, graphics as padding. This is a self-explanatory clip. Genuinely haven't cut anything out. That's literally what he shows on the DVD. 3 panda walks of shame in one go. Toby, do I need to ask if I can take this stuff out? OK, so let's just get rid of it. Now, a surprising category, other people's footage. I'm not sure how he's been allowed to include it in the DVD, because I'm not allowed to include it in the show. Not allowed. Lawyers won't let me, but let me tell you that that is roughly 30 seconds from a Kylie Minogue pop video. That is 30 seconds from Mr. Bean's Holiday. That is about a minute of Lee Mead singing a song from Joseph and His Technicolor Dreamcoat. And that is a further 30 seconds of Lee Mead singing something else entirely. Any questions?
Lee Mead's never been in Doctor Who.
Lee Mead has never been in Doctor Who, no. That is sort of cryptic, isn't it? Let me explain. Lee Mead made his name because he won the role in Joseph and His Technicolor Dreamcoat, which he won in a reality show called Any Dream Will Do, and amongst the judges was John Barrowman, and John Barrowman has been in Doctor Who.
Everybody's been in a programme that somebody who might have been in Doctor Who's been in.
I know.
You have everybody on it.
Incidentally, I'm glad we're sort of discussing the Lee Mead issue, because with your permission, Toby, and everyone, I want to make this feel fair. I want to remove another clip at the same time as we take out other people's footage, and it's that. And this section is about a minute of John Barrowman, who is a legitimate star of Doctor Who, being just a little bit mean about Lee Mead. But the reason I want to take it out is, A, he'd finished his interview and clearly didn't think that the camera was still rolling, and B, it's got nothing to do with Doctor Who, and C, most of this section of the DVD looks like this. Just see if you can spot John Barrowman in the clip.
No, he did media training at the BBC, which was the basic when they were in Joseph, which we have to do to explain
there
to
he
them.
is! Can that go out at the same time as other people's footage? Can that be gone? OK, there it goes. Now that you've got the flavour of the man, is everyone comfortable if I remove this category? Is that good? That's fair, isn't it? Which is really getting to the nub of the issue now, isn't it? It is worth saying that the cover of the DVD makes certain promises, OK? And I quote, including extensive and revealing interviews with Doctor Who himself, David Tennant. Well, let's see how extensive and revealing an interview he has with David Tennant on this DVD. I can tell you that is about 30 seconds of him discussing Kylie Minogue. That there is 80 seconds of David Tennant, and that there is a further 80 seconds of him. That is a grand total of 3 minutes and 10 seconds of David Tennant. Oh, yeah, extensive and revealing. In that time, he is asked just 5 questions, and one of them was asked by the journalist standing next to Neil Sean at the time. But I think it's interesting to focus on the 2 80-second sections. I'll tell you what, I'm going to show you just a tiny bit from each one, OK? Now, the first one comes in at around the 14-minute mark on the DVD, and it looks and sounds like this.
Yeah, and I was gutted when he left, and then Peter Davison came along, and within 3 weeks you go, he's brilliant, and I think that's how it works.
Yeah, fine. And the second one, that comes about 28 minutes into the DVD, so 14 minutes later, and it looks and sounds like this.
Yeah, and I was gutted when he left, and then Peter Davison came along, and within 3 weeks you go, he's brilliant, and I think that's how it works.
They are the same interview! Literally every bit of it, word for word, every single second. There isn't a unique bit in the 2 clips. I know he's a time traveller, but sending himself forwards 14 minutes on the same DVD to say the same thing again is taking the piss, isn't it? So there aren't even 3 minutes and 10 seconds of David Tennant. It's actually just 1 minute and 50 seconds. But we are now there. What's left on the screen is people connected to Doctor Who talking, OK? That, as we know, is David Tennant. The red section down there is Russell T Davies. That there is Simon Pegg. That's Noel Clarke. And that is John Barrowman, OK? There is just one more category to remove, ladies and gentlemen. Sod all to do with Doctor Who. And when we do that, and we reveal that that is what you get for your £5. Let's make this easy and countable, bunk it all together. I can tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that is about 7.5 minutes. This DVD is like a TARDIS in reverse. It's much smaller on the inside. And incidentally, I think, Toby, I think you might agree, I think I'm being generous when I count that as all Doctor Who-related material. It includes gems like this.
I didn't realise it was going to be a big media affair. Otherwise, you know, I would have snuck in through the back door.
That's included, OK? Simon Pegg saying, well, if I'd known you were going to be here, I wouldn't have come. Toby, do you think I've been reasonable here?
I think you've been more than reasonable.
OK, I mean, does this feel like fair? I don't want to feel like a bully of Neil. I just think, you know, I'm being as fair and right as I can. I hope it does. I have wrestled with my conscience over this. I had a moment a few days ago when I suddenly thought, what if Neil was just doing his job? What if some production company offered him a few quid? He turned up on the day, he was given a script, he read what he was given. It's not his responsibility, he might not know that it's not right. So I did a bit of digging. I searched online for his name and Doctor Who to see what I could find, and what I found was this story from the Press Gazette. Showbiz journalist Neil Sean repackages interviews for DVD. This article explains that he set up his own company to distribute the offcuts from his celeb interviews. And, rather deliciously, he's called that company Maycon. I don't think anyone needs me to complete the punchline on that one, do they? That's all fine. It also says he has released 2 DVDs so far. One about West End stars and one about Doctor Who. Albeit that is actually a different DVD title. I don't know quite what's going on there. But excitingly, it adds, he now plans to produce a DVD which will tell the real Dad's Army story, which will include interviews with Ian Lavender and Jimmy Perry. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, sounds like another con. Do you know what I was thinking? Happy Mother's Day. Thanks for watching. See you soon. Good night.